Today we will install a walkway in our hosta garden. There are many different materials available for walkways, and typically the most important consideration in selecting a material is cost. Gravel and mulch materials tend to be the least expensive. Organic mulches might include barks, wood chips, or pecan shells like we have here. For stone pathways, we could use tumbled stone or crushed gravel and seashells. Both of these materials can take on a more casual or a more formal appearance depending on the design as well as the edging material. For example, our crushed gravel pathway in the orchard has a curvilinear form and looks much more casual than the brick-lined walkway passing through our painter's palette. In general, gravel and stone pathways take on a more formal appearance, while organic mulches have a more natural feel. Stepping stones are another easy to install and fairly inexpensive option for our walkway material. While stone tends to be somewhat expensive in general, with a stepping stone path, we're spacing individual pieces of stone out along the length of the walkway, and so they tend to go pretty far, much farther than the tight pattern of a flagstone walkway. Now, I'm using some flagstone that was left over from another project, and what we want to look for are pieces that are about 18 to 20 inches across and about 2 inches thick. These will make some good steppers. You can also use concrete patio squares, such as we have here, or circle forms. These will make great steppers. We even have an octagonal form that would also make a nice stepping stone material. Now, with our pathways, the width of our path is dictated by use. A main path is going to be a little bit wider, usually around 4 to 5 feet, and this allows 2 people to walk side by side. For a smaller side path, such as our hosta walk, we want a narrower path that's about 2 to 2.5 feet wide. I've selected a variety of stones between around 18 to 24 inches wide, and they have varying forms. Some of them are more rectangular and others have a more irregular appearance. I'd really prefer them to be more irregular, and I could take the rectangular pieces and chip off some of the edges, or I could just intermix the rectangular pieces and the irregular pieces throughout so that I avoid anything that looks very formal. Now, when you're placing the stones, you want to look at the surfaces. This surface is a bit more uneven, so I want to put that down and lay the smoother surface facing upwards, so we'll step on this. And we want to space our stones so that the center of one stepping stone is about 20 to 24 inches from the next. And the reason that we do this is that our natural gate falls at about this distance. So to get started, I'm just going to place the stones all along the pathway. These two are both very rectangular, so I want to move that one out a little bit. I'm just going to space them out, and then I'll come back and do some measuring. We're setting our stones on the soil surface rather than recessing them because we're going to fill in around them with mulch. Now, there are situations where you might have a path such as in a turf area where you want to recess those stones. In that case, you want the top of the stone to be about 1 inch above the soil surface, and that way you could still run a lawnmower over the top of them and mow the turf all around. Now, there's a few in here that I would like to recess. This one is at the edge of our path, and I'm not going to be able to put a lot of mulch here without it washing out. So I'm going to recess this one, and to do that I'm going to start by just tracing around the edge so I know where I want my stone to be placed, and then lift it out of the way, and I can use a shovel or another tool to just scrape the soil up out of the hole. And I'll keep doing this until I get it to where I want it level. Now, I want the stone to be more or less level across the surface, but I don't necessarily need adjacent stones to be level because they're not connected. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to just tuck the soil back in around the edge. Now there's other areas where you might have a particularly thick piece of stone, and in that case you might want to recess it a little so that the overall height of the path is fairly consistent. Now we decided to use a bigger piece of stone where our two paths come together, and that one's going to need a little bit of leveling. On a slope, so it's a little bit unlevel and there's a high spot in the middle. So what we need to do is lift it up out of the way and start to level the soil beneath. And what I'm going to do is just move some of the soil from the uphill surface to the lower end, and that'll help address some of this evening problem. I don't need it to be perfectly level, I just want it to be more or less stable and visually level. If you have a large stone, you can also use sand underneath. That works as a great leveling agent. It's a little bit more giving than the soil is. Once we have all our stones in place, we could go ahead and fill in around them with some mulch material. And we're just using the wood chips that match the surrounding beds. You can also plant around your stepping stones using some real low-growing ground covers. There are a number of plants that tolerate a little bit of foot traffic. We have a really nice example of this behind our tea garden, where we have some mondo grass planted between our stone steppers.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.